What's the worst thing about being a woman? Osteoporosis. I can't remember if estrogen causes it or the lack of estrogen in menopause. Either way, it is inevitable. The limit to the success you can achieve as a woman because society is still rooted in gender expectations sucks. In the US, the lack of parental leave holds women back far more often than men, for example, because of the expectation that women will eventually have children and temporarily leave the job. Also, the constant fear at night or in unfamiliar places and knowing that there are parts of the world you can't travel to are pretty awful. Being on guard almost all of the time. Walking down the street at night as a woman, and you're definitely thinking about the lone guy walking about 10 feet behind you, constantly wondering if he will overtake you. If a guy is hitting on you persistently, and turn him down, you do it politely, for fear that if you tell him to fuck off, he might become extremely belligerent. And people wonder why you weren't more forceful with your answer. It's exhausting. As someone who is about to be 7 months pregnant, I'd say pregnancy and eventual childbirth. It's one thing to endure aching pains, vomiting, not being able to sleep, along with the million other symptoms, but the process of pregnancy is just really long. Adding into the postpartum period, you basically lose a year or more of being in control of having ownership over your own body. Being blamed for being out too late, or wearing the wrong clothes, having to be aware 24/7 of everything and not being able to trust anyone. Being held to an impossible standard because of this one crazy ex blah blah blah. Oh, and having to prove my intelligence unlike my counterpart who may or may not actually know what he says he does. Who knows, there's never a pop quiz for him. People, mostly men, think they have the right to harass or outright touch you based on how you're dressed and that you're blamed for that. I did a lot of Comic Cons pre-pandemic and lost count on how many times that I, dressed as a pretend character dresses, was followed, grabbed, and even spanked without my consent. Having endometriosis and no one, including other women, believes you when you're doubled over in pain every month by monster cramps. I'd say the fear of being raped is up there too, but fear of rape doesn't cause me to throw up and plead any gods out there to grant me mercy and end my suffering. From the macho paradox, why some men hurt women and how all men can help. To be frank, I think it's most men, or maybe even women, and I say that as a man because there are no bystanders in this. For all the progress that's been made, there is still some really ugly deep-seated beliefs out there that still show their face when you don't expect it. A relatively low-key example is when most every woman I know has tried to buy Lisa a car without a guy present. Trying to get a man to move a couch 3 times in one day because you don't like where it's at. After the first time they start bitching. Come on, you're physically stronger, you can move the couch up and down the stairs as many times as needed, it's your job. High expectations regarding higher education. Growing up, I was taught that women are smarter than men and that in order to be truly happy I need to have a degree and a well-paying job. Men can work in construction, which pays a lot, so they don't need it. I just saw that thread and I was looking for having to protect ourselves from men 24/7 or something similar and scrolled through 50 posts about periods. Yeah, I have endo. It sucks, but near constant fear of being kidnapped and out alone is worse. Emo. Sometimes not being taken seriously just because you convey something in a nice way. Then it is pushed and you have to be more direct, which feels against your nature. It always feels bad to be mean, but sometimes you to go there to get your point across. If my metabolism were lower, I would need to eat far less to maintain my weight. I already eat and drink poorly, and the only way I can maintain a healthy weight is to exercise a lot and lift weights. If I weren't a guy, I'd probably be overweight. Periods, not being taken seriously, not being able to walk peacefully at night, hormonal imbalance, the process of pregnancy, having men decide on laws about the female body, always having our guards up everywhere we go, etc. Feel free to add more. Periods, pressure to have children, pressure to be beautiful but not too beautiful BC then you're vain and too into your looks, pressure to be sexy but not too sexy BC then you're a slut. Aging, feeling unsafe everywhere you go, sexism, I could go on. Men not taking you seriously because you're a woman, always having to be careful when outside at night, having periods, social pressure to look perfect at all times, facing judgment for every little thing you do or don't do. Should I continue? Restrictions, parents, by partner, by society, sometimes by your own self. You can do certain things just because you are a girl, doesn't matter how capable you are, badly you wanted to pursue it. Someone is ready to stop you. Can't be friends with straight men because they think they're gonna fuck me. Then once they find out I never wanted to fuck them, suddenly I'm a terrible person and they leave my life entirely. Gay and bi men in my experience are kinder. It's probably having clothes without pockets. I have a few dress shirts without a shirt pocket and it infuriates me when I don't have a place to put my sunglasses. I can't imagine not having any pockets on most of my clothes. Men online finding out you're a woman and thinking that they want to get pictures of your sick or go out with them just because seeing a woman comment online is the closest thing to a woman's touch they have had in years. The paranoid and anxiety-filled thoughts I get on the few days leading up to my period. It's like I can't have a few moments peace to myself before I go through the most physically painful experience I've had in my life. When are you going to get a boyfriend? When are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? Can you not? Just leave me be and let me go at my own pace. It's not your business and you're being rude, being infantilized as an indie woman. Not being taken seriously. People think you don't know what you do. Less payment in work life. Male bosses tell you shitty things sometimes. Being sexually assaulted. The society will judge your life success by having or not having a man. Doesn't really matter how smart you are, what are your achievements, etc. You have to have a cock around to be successful. Period. Being a middle-class woman in the global north with privilege? I get hormonal headaches during menstruation and have to be careful to not smile too wide at strange dudes lest they get the wrong idea. This is mom and wife specific, carrying all the effing emotional labor and management of the household, and no matter how you phrase it, dudes just don't get it or think you're being a whiny nag. I'm a man, and even when I went to college, if it was nighttime and a girl had to walk home, she's either ask a guy to walk her or call the walk service. I've walked girls home a bunch of times, not always feeling completely protected, whether at home or in public. I assume that I can stroll almost anywhere at any time of day or night and that everything will be alright. The fact that it takes us a long time to even get aroused because that's how our bodies works, but men don't understand that a refuse to soar pleasure is often overlooked. Whenever a women's issue crops up, men start with her. If it were men, no one would take seriously. Little do men realize, they are also doing the same. Breathing wrong and being in unexplained pain for multiple days. Also the medical neglect from doctors saying all our problems are just our periods. It's surprising how many men and society answers there are in here. Doesn't that mean your worst thing is just everyone except you? For me, it's the hormones. It has a lot ups and downs. Especially around my period. Which is also one of the worst things about being a woman XD. Honestly, men and judgmental women. Periods, pregnancy and childbirth also suck. Medicine and healthcare is also crap for women. Other people's stereotypical biases, that we're emotional, weak, out of control, really every limiting belief society has. I assume the periods and possibility of pregnancy would be up there. I know I'd be so anxious about that if I was a woman. Periods. And some think that it's normal and fine that you're bleeding while sneezing, standing up, walking, etc. My grandma told me the worst part was the woman's curse of never aging past 29. She was 29 my whole life. Lol. Periods and giving birth. Depending on era and culture, the discrimination from society can be worse. Having only observed from a safe as either childbirth yawn or the toilet seat nonsense. Really like going on drives late at night. But can't unless someone goes with me. Ooh, and periods. Never feeling safe. Never knowing which men you can trust. Constant harassment from men. Your appearance only matters. You are not pretty, very specific pretty, you're doomed. Worrying about what men can do to you all the time. And any men. You can't trust anyone. Being caretakers in the home. Cleaning all the time because our standards are high. Periods and having big boobs. I love how they look, but get these things off me. Constant fear of rape. Unless you like that stuff. Then constant fear of STDs. According to my wife, doctors don't take your medical complaints seriously. Hormones. Now I always feel like I'm on the brink of a mental breakdown. If you still live in a society that practices it, arranged marriage. The process of reproduction is more painful than the one of a man. The fact that society thinks we are weaker or inferior in any way. Horny men who are greedy and selfish and won't leave you alone. Period cramps and nobody takes you seriously, especially doctors. Period pains are really worse for some women. For example me. You need to find the opposite of Shania Twain for the answer. Between periods and society. Can I just say everything? Smiley face. That people start judging you for not having children. The seemingly endless expectations. It's exhausting. The urgent fear every time I go home alone at night.